Hello, everyone in here, in Logomo, Turku, and there online, behind online stream. And welcome to the Songs and Sessions 2026 finale. We are about to start the first panel here, and we have all the participants here. And just going to introduce you, Rafael Pereira, Managing Partner, TINNUTS Executive Trustee, India Music Exchange, and Abhijeet Singh, Producer, Film Village Line Production, Tarun Sawhney, President for EMEA and APAC at ShortsTV, Roosa Toivonen, Producer, Good Hand Film and TV, and Moderator, Jani Joenniemi. And now the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so my name is Jani Joenniemi. I'm the head or program director at Europe Asia Roundtable Sessions, which has put together this larger program with the songwriting camp and this event here. And with all the partners. So I don't know, let's do a short round of introductions first. Maybe start with you, Rafael. So what connects you with the topic today, the IP and international collaboration?
Well, I like to call myself an intellectual property strategist. So what I do is at the center of law, business, and technology, at least as far as it relates to the creative economy. And IP is at the center of the creative economy. That's what we used to call the orange economy when the term was first coined in the Dutch Parliament and referred to this industry we all love. And so with IP in the center of it, my day-to-day is advising every single creator that I speak to on what falls within copyright and trademark, patent, designs, geographical indications, traditional knowledge and cultural expression, so on and so forth. And it's not for them necessarily to remember, but I think there's a Finnish expression, something about circling a square. I heard it for the first time a couple of days ago. But I think it's it's important to identify that legal systems are pretty rigid, but we need to kind of bend and mend them to our benefit, and that's what I try and do on a daily basis. I kind of circle the square canvas that we have and try and help protect creators and help them monetize their creations across the board.
Thanks. And Abhijeet?
Hi everyone, I'm Abhijeet. I'm based out of Mumbai, and I run a company which is into production services, and we are focused on bringing foreign productions to India and taking Indian productions to Europe for filming. And we also have a distribution office that we run out of Poland in Europe, which distributes Indian movies for the European market in cinemas.
Hi everyone, my name is Roosa. I'm based in Helsinki. I'm a producer, also a sort of, I think I've found a place as a sort of connector, so I like to do co-productions, connect the dots many times. They could be production companies, or they could be connecting funds with a project or something like that. And of course, living this time of disruption and change in consuming habits, we are all scratching our heads, what are the ways to go, and thus interested to chat about this more.
Thank you. As I've just picked up today, moi is hello in Finnish, so moi. My name is Tarun, and I head a short film platform we call ShortsTV, and short films are springboard. They act like a springboard for filmmakers, and they also make a start for bigger IPs, which is an important part of the discussion today. The other hat that we wear is we run talent and skill development programs. They're also one of the important bits or subjects that we talk about is how to protect your IP, because all of you here who have created these masterpieces, you got to make sure that you protect what you have built today, and we tend to, help guide how they should be going about it. And of course, Rafael does it for a living.
Yeah, so so India Music Exchange that you also help steer. You've been a partner in the songwriting camp that just finished, and where the songwriters were co-writing songs. And they were doing so there in the beginning of the songwriting camp there was briefs around audiovisual production series and films and so on. But I think India and the European markets differ in their relationship to the audiovisual, in a sense that in India it's traditionally been very connected, the film and music. How can you tell us more about that and how it's changing, and what kind of maybe new opportunities it's opening between music and audiovisual?
So I think I've explained this to a lot of the writers who were present with us, but I'll try and put it in a nutshell. So India, as a music market, didn't as a standalone music market, or the music industry that in all of your countries, wasn't given the room for its independence or to grow on its own. It was treated as a way to sell gramophones pre-independence. We got our independence from the British in 1947. Post that, it was treated as a necessity to have on radio broadcast, and that was more social behavioral change messaging and things like that. So it was really commissioned for public service announcements, but just with a good tune or a good beat. Some of them are pretty cool and pretty sampleable today, so you should go through that library. But then came the era of film, and film was also went through this whole social behavioral change messaging, commissioned films. And what really stayed with the people were not necessarily the dialogues from those films, but the songs. So like Desh Ki Dharti, Jai Kisan, Jai Jawan. You would think of the songs of those films more than the film, the dialogues of the film, or certain scenes of the film. And because the music then became so integral to the films, that became the formula for success in Indian film. And of course, there's multiple schools of Indian film, so you won't necessarily see that. We all get easily mistake Bollywood to be the entire film industry in India, and it's not. It's not even doing that well nowadays compared to the other language markets in India. What then happened was we had all of these artists, these writers, these labels who were creating great music that didn't really suit these films. So somewhere in the 90s, a bunch of labels and artists decided that it was about time someone released music that was not associated with the film, and we classified that as non-film music, or you would call music, and and so through that was really the birth of some of the great the great Indian independent artists. And they were signed to major labels, but they were called independent because it was independent of film. So the artists like Alisha Chennai and Lucky Ali, and I think Gurdas Maan had so many great albums not associated with film. Daler Mehndi, it was known in European tours as the Balle Balle guy, but yeah, that was really the birth of an industry that today, due to the pandemic, has also accelerated to be the 15th largest music market in the world. And it's got so much of headroom because we've got another 250, 300 million people coming on to streaming services or yet to come on to streaming services in India. And I think that's a few times more than the size of Europe. So that's
Size of Finland.
yeah.
Yeah, Abhijeet, you work in the sort of a crossroads of international and Indian audiovisual productions. What kind of let's say opportunities or and challenges do you see at the moment, and what's the sort of where is it moving in that sense?
So I think the challenge always with bringing any international production, either bringing them into India or bringing them from India to Europe, first is before we solve the questions for the director or before we solve the production problems, we need to find a way to bridge it culturally. So that becomes the first step on any international production, to kind of find a workflow or an ecosystem that both cultures can work together and work well. Because if that does not go right in the next 60 days, we might end up killing each other. So I think that becomes the first challenge, and that's the first step to kind of put together any cross-border collaboration. And definitely after that, I mean, it is very important for us to see how we can find solutions for them, keeping in mind the aesthetics that we are filming American production or a German production in India, but we know that it's not for an Indian audience, it's for a Western audience. So our crew, our head of departments that are involved in that process, to kind of make sure that they have that in mind, they have the sensibilities and aesthetics they can align with to deliver what we are looking at for the producers. So I think it goes beyond film. It goes beyond just the regular process of doing your job, but it's more to understand that culture, understand that market, and understand the film ecosystem on a global scale.
How do you see like India, like you were referring to, like a couple of hundred million people are still about to join the streaming platforms, but India for the past 10 years has experienced this massive explosion of internet usage, in a sense that I think 10 years ago it was a couple of 100 million people online, and now it's close to a billion people online, and they've joined, they've logged in Netflixes and Amazons and Spotify's and so on. So how do you see that changing the sort of cultural gap or cultural or the relationship to international co-productions and international productions?
I mean, a big challenge India has or the West has faced in India for a very long time is, other than mainstream Hollywood, we would never find distribution. It's such a big market which is consuming content right, left, and center. But it was always a very localized market focused on Indian, like Hindi and other Indian regional languages. And plus, obviously, because English for us is not in a way a foreign language. It's more something we grew up with naturally. So a lot of the tier 1 cities or the urban or metro cities, how we call it, are kind of always used to watching English content, and that's why Hollywood perform well. But French cinema, Italian cinema, everyone, they tried to make this push in India for a very long time, but were not able to find a consistent way of distributing these films because it was cinema or television, and they were not able to find this footfall. So I think the positive side of streaming culture or streaming is definitely on an international scale. It has given visibility to Korean films, French cinema, French shows, Korean dramas. A lot of people consume what we have from the Nordics, a lot of crime and investigation and stuff. So I think the positive side is that it's opened the distribution and kind of consumption for this market. So even if it happens that there is a fatigue of the platforms or streaming and people don't want to watch anymore, at least you've kind of made them aware and opened them to consuming this content. So if I were to bring it in cinemas after 10 years, it wouldn't be an alien thing for people. So that's kind of the most positive side.
Great. So Roosa, you have a long relationship with India, and you've actually produced films in India. So can you tell a little bit about that history and how you've seen it?
Yes, of course.
change?
I was just thinking, my mind was racing when we were discussing, because it's always, of course, when we're thinking of how we can scale our businesses, it's a volume game. And of course, India has such an advantage in a way of volume of population compared to Finland. So we have 5 million people, a bit more in Finland. And I remember when I first went to India in 1992, and I remember watching TV and seeing advertisement for ballpoint pens. And I was thinking, like, I've never ever in my life seen an advertisement for a ballpoint pen. But in a country with this many people, if everyone buys a ballpoint pen, that's a really big business. So already there, you sort of understood it's a completely different world because of the incredible volume of people. Whereas here, let's say I used to work in a company that produced one of the biggest box office hits in Finland ever, which is called Unknown Soldier. It's a war movie based on a book that was cleverly timed to sort of come out on the 100 years of Finnish independence. And it got about 1.1 million admissions in cinemas, which in Finland is like incredible. For India, probably you would be really like depressed if your movie got like 1 million admissions. So, you know, it's also like we can't even sort of understand the amazing volume that you guys have. And so, of course, we can only dream of sort of reaching those audiences that you have, and our small audiences are quite small in comparison. I did film a film in India. I've actually filmed 2 or 3 documentaries and then 1 fiction film. On the fiction film, I was the director as well as a producer, and for there I always remember that we discussed this with Abhijeet, because he's doing line production and production services, that there are these wonderful people called sport boys that are basically like sort of generalist runners that are just there to like bring you an umbrella or like bring you some water or take your laundry somewhere or do whatever you need. And I fell in love with the sports boys. So I wish someday we'll have sports boys in Finland. But of course we don't, because to employ a person in Finland costs much more than the $5 a day that we paid for the sport boys. Maybe they've come up a little bit, but still like that. So I think in general it's interesting to think about also what you said, that you got your independence in 47, and actually we got our independence in 1917, and actually for countries we are still relatively new. Obviously we already had 100 years, but we have had the need to sort of find our identity within the culture, and of course sort of reinforce our identity. And I think for that, creating your own IP is the biggest treasure ever. And of course the IP can be based on books or games or even now you can create original IP that will become an IP that you can exploit and monetize on, like the Finnish movie Sisu, which I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's a sort of example of a film that was made for a relatively small budget, yet it traveled quite well. It doesn't have much text. As you've seen, Finns are not that talkative, and the guy in Sisu is not that talkative at all. So I think he says his first line when he takes his gold to the bank at the very end of the movie. But so, you know, that obviously was quite, well, I think I digressed. But anyway, this was what came to mind.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So Tarun, yeah, ShortsTV does work in short form, short films. And I guess you have a big presence in India, even though you operate globally. But so India actually, for the audience, India is the largest market per users for YouTube and Instagram, and I guess all the international
For everything.
social, yeah, pretty much. So how do you see in the short form space? How do you? What kind of new trends do you see? What kind of work are you doing? And why is India so important for you guys?
Well, obviously, I mean, for very obvious reasons, you know, it's India gives you the volumes which no other country gives you. Okay. Of course, you know, when it comes to pricing the product, you know, they're pretty much you're 90% discounting it when you're selling things in India. But it's the volume, it's a volumes game, and hence it helps. It's also a very advanced market in terms of users, because you get surprised that the number of genres people have appetite for. Okay, I still remember back in 2018 when we launched the product, we went there with zero expectations, and we thought, what's the best way to, you know, launch this product? So we said, okay, we're gonna do a 4-city tour. Okay, we organize screenings at PVR, which is India's biggest cinema, and we called journalists and some of the short film actors, actress. And the 4th day when we launched, and I still remember it was on Tara Play, we crossed 100,000 subscribers within 3 days of launch. So me and my colleagues were looking at each other. What did we just achieve? You know, it is so fabulous, and especially, you know, short films as a category. It's a fairly unknown category. Even now, even today, the awareness isn't a lot. Lots of times, people don't look at short the way they look at features. But they are the hardest craft to master because you don't have the luxury of time. So every short, every dialogue has to make sense. You know, it's all about precision. That's what shorts are all about. And but you know, just coming back to the main topic of discussion, which is IPs. You know, short films have been a pioneer in IP creations because, you know, we've seen so many shorts which were turned into feature and then they become IPs. You know, a very recent example of The Boiling Point, which is a British film, and you know, it was turned into a feature. Whiplash, again, a very famous American film. It was a short. The way it started, they pretty much took the same shots in the feature as well. It's a great springboard for filmmakers across the globe, and we've had some amazing learnings from India, you know, because Indian filmmakers are really amazing when it comes to the ideas and the topics and the genres that you looked at when you watch those films. It really opens your eyes, and they tend to travel very well because the topic the more local the topic is, it's going to have a global appeal because we are all very, very inquisitive. We want to know what's going on in the world. So yeah.
Great. Yep, we can go that way as well. Yeah, I mean, we are talking about India being this huge market and big numbers and so on, but India is also a very complex market. That's been, evident at the songwriting camp also. That was just finished with all the languages in the songs and so on. So what I learned recently, I attended a IP market in Mumbai, and I learned that there's actually a long tradition for adaptations and remakes in the film industry, and that's because there's been actually within the market there's been from Hindi, Hindi adaptations of a Telugu film or something like that. So so there's can you Abhijeet, you work in that space, so can you sort of explain a little bit of that and what the international opportunity is there?
So I think the emergence of adapting content, may it be from other languages or foreign languages, starts with the fact that it's such a competitive market in terms of the number of broadcasters, streaming platforms, studios, the amount of theatrical release. I mean, post-COVID, you have less and less theatrical release, but pre-COVID, there were producers in court fighting for a release date every month. This was the situation because there were 5 films landing every Friday, and the bigger productions wanted it. So it's kind of this high demand ecosystem that needs to churn out projects at a certain pace. That in terms of mainstream Bollywood films, they first announce their release date and then they go into production. So they are always working against a timeline. And in a situation like this, you need to deliver content at a certain speed. And because original content and content creator, they would take their time and they would take their arc to kind of get to develop something. This need of adapting for fast turnarounds and filling in the gap kind of came into existence. And yes, it's been a lot of productions. So basically, it started with South adapting a lot of Hindi productions at that time, which were not licensed. They were just ideas that were taken. Then it came with Hindi cinema adapting a lot of foreign concepts. And it goes on from films. And obviously now, because the structure is more legalized, there are studios operating internationally. So they have their own presence. They can spot what their films are. So people are more doing it in a structured manner now. But it continues, and it continues to grow even with the series format. So 24, The Night Manager, all these series have been adapted to India already and doing pretty good. There is Invisible Guest, the Spanish movie adapted to India, performed very well at the box office. There have been French titles, there have been Italian titles, there have been Dutch shows. So a lot of adaptation works. And there's also an interesting way which some Korean productions now start to bring into India is they don't want to sell or license their IP. What they want to do is they want to collaborate with you and co-produce these projects in your language. So we have a couple of Korean companies who set up shop in Bombay, and they don't produce anything by themselves. What they do is collaborate with local producers, but instead of licensing it out, they take a backend and then do it with you. So it's also a tool where people have started to co-produce their existing libraries in different languages, and it works really well, especially when it comes to genre films. I think it takes a market, and I think a market as big as India in terms of consumption. A lot of times you remake it in Hindi, then you have a Tamil or a Malayalam or a Telugu remake of it. So it kind of goes on. I recently worked on a German production, and the same producer, his previous film is now getting remade in India, and it's been already adapted in 17 countries. So I think it is an opportunity. It's also a kind of a revenue stream which is booming in India.
So is there how for to Rafael maybe, like, is there I think you're working in the IP space a lot. So is there a sort of a pan-Indian market for music or films like that covers whole of India?
You mean market in the sense like an event, or do you mean is there an opportunity?
Is it very split between the regions, or do you have like when you are releasing, for instance, music or films, do you target a specific market in India?
Maybe I'll speak about film and then get to music, because the music industry in India doesn't necessarily think of creating a song in one language and then going into other languages with that same song. It's not something that the labels and publishers are used to at this point. I don't know if it's a bias or what, but there are publishers in India who'd look at taking a Hindi song and trying to get a Spanish version made out of it, but not another Indian language for whatever reason. But on the film side, if you look at producers in the south of India, they used to adopt a stance wherein they would, of course, they're making nowadays they're making a film in 4 languages, and sometimes they're shooting in 3 languages as well. They plan to release in maybe even 13 languages in India. They could have a plan for that, but when it comes to post production, they often sit down and say, okay, let's look at our primary language and let's see how well it's doing in the state outside of which the language originates from. And then based on that first weekend, then they'll look at, okay, let's get the dub out for this language. Let's subtitling. I mean, that's now de facto because of the platforms, but the dub was crucial. But we have a film that has to be censored in every language. So you go to the film, the Central Board of Film Certification, and it's not necessarily it's not necessarily the bad guys anymore. But for example, just translating something into another language is not necessarily enough. So there are a lot of sensibilities that cultures that are associated within language groups in India, and so it's important to translate around that. And I'll give you an example. In South Indian language, Randi means welcome, but in Hindi it means prostitute. So when when you just when you subtitle your film and try to have it released in its original language, it doesn't get the certificate for some instance, right? The reason I just mentioned to you. Now, but of course, I have a few clients who invest in language markets where it's above 30 million native speakers. They would seriously invest in an Indian language where there's at least 30 million native speakers, and there's quite a few languages that have at least 30 million people speaking those languages. But when it comes to, let's say, the secondary rights, as we like to call them, a lot of them miss out because they're not thinking, or at least they weren't thinking, how do we monetize other languages? How do we try and upsell our IP to other studios, to other producers? And now we have specific instances of that are the model. We have post-pandemic. I think the biggest success at that point was a film called Pushpa, and Pushpa um, was had its OST in 2 languages, and Telugu and Hindi as well, right? Both languages had a different music label that the music was sold to, and the Hindi music was sold to India's biggest label, the world's biggest YouTube channel called T Series, and the Telugu version was sold to Aditya Music in the south of India, a Hyderabad-based label. Now, you would assume that you know, maybe the songs would do well depending um, on how many people actually speak the language that the song is distributed to. But for example, the lead song, I wish I could have played it for everyone. It would have been a nice moment. But U Antava is kind of the single that that carried the film. And we do have these singles that are released almost 3 weeks before the film. It works a lot better than trailers today. Producers put everything into it. They'll probably spend the budget of 10 Finnish films to shoot that one dance sequence in a movie, because that is the promo, that is the trailer that actually gets 100 million admissions, as you would call them. And U Antava was the Telugu version, and U Bolega was the Hindi version that was put out by T Series. If you check T Series on YouTube right now, you'll see that if they have a video on YouTube which is less than 100 million views, they fire 100 people from their team. Right? That's the kind of that's the success that they expect. And for whatever reason, the non-Telugu speaking markets, including the Hindi speaking markets, they like the Telugu version of the song U Antava, and T Series just could not understand why this was happening. And you have, I barely speak one of those languages with an accent, and you just have non-native speakers adopting this song in a foreign language. It's foreign to me, and singing that, choosing that as opposed to the language they actually understand, and only later realizing that the lyrics of the two songs don't mean the same thing. And that also changes with the language, but it's just it sounds better when you sing it in Telugu. It has that oomph, it has that feeling, and the Hindi version, although it tries to do the same thing, it just can't deliver. It's even got the same singers on it, and it so this is, I wanted to answer your question, but I also wanted to point out that it's not necessary that that making your content accessible in another language is going to mean success for you. It's not just about translation, it's about transliteration and understanding context and sensibilities in India, because we are a continent in a country. And so it's really important to have local partners who understand that. And Abhijeet and I were chatting about, like, for example, why he chooses not to work with distributors in certain market and really work himself and distribute something himself, is because he understands the context, he can explain the context and kind of pitch it out there. And India is really all about that context and timing. Yeah.
Thanks. Do we have time still, or was it 6 minutes? Okay, great. So thanks. So India, you need the local partners, and it's a very complex place.
Disney's releasing, the last Marvel film was in 14 Indian languages, available in 14 Indian languages as well.
Yeah.
Right? But a lot of the kids who don't necessarily speak English fluently would watch it in English because they think it's cool. Although it's available in Haryanvi or Odia, they watch it in English because FU sounds great in English and not so much in their local language. You know, that's
Comes from the original version.
yeah.
Okay.
So still like even when you're localizing it so heavy, still the 80% of the box office is of the original version in English.
Okay.
So I think it's also people kind of I mean with the popular films also what happens is if you dub Mission Impossible, I know what Tom Cruise sounds like. I don't want to hear anybody else say his dialogue. So that makes a lot of difference as well.
Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, question to maybe Roosa and Tarun, both of you. I mean, you guys. I know you. India is a country of volumes, like we've discussed before, and there's a lot of new formats coming up in terms of you know entertainment online in the online space, short form. What kind of opportunities maybe Roosa do you see in those? I know you're a creative producer as well. You work in sort of other formats as well than film. So India having the volumes that we don't, do you see any opportunities for collaboration there?
There's great disruption brings also great opportunity in a way, because not to be too lengthy about it, but writer strike, actor strike, COVID, streamers, etc., have sort of completely messed up the old sort of systems of middlemen that would sort of sell and distribute, etc., etc. So we're facing a completely new market, and the way how people consume and how we can engage people, and IPs are actually just anything that's tried and tested and is interesting to the audience, interesting enough for them to pay a price, either watch ads to consume it or then pay money to consume it. So I think there's tremendous opportunity, and of course I know Tarun is into shorts and verticals. That's of course very emerging at the moment. In Finland we still haven't figured out how to monetize on that, because that too, as we've talked, is a volume business. That to monetize on verticals, licensing them and making them, you have to actually make a lot of them. And let's say, for instance, we are not in the Nordics yet sort of well versed enough to maybe make that, but I'm sure that will come. So if someone doesn't know what are verticals, they are just series that are very short form that you watch on a vertical format. So on your phone you binge them on your phone, and it started, I'm sure you guys know better, but it started from maybe Asian long commutes and that kind of thing. And of course the whole creator economy is all the time sort of promoting this way of storytelling. I'll give it to Tarun now for his take.
Thank you, Radha. I just want to just add a little bit context in terms of, the opportunities are directly correlated to the audience which is there. And just for context, the oldest millennial will turn 45 this year, and the oldest Gen Z would turn 29 this year. Okay, so that's the kind of audience we're talking about. So the world is getting younger, and also there is, the millennials are also getting older. So when we're talking about opportunities, those opportunities need to be targeted towards the audience. And if you're in the volume business, you need to understand where that volume is coming from. And so to give an example of microdramas, the maximum audience comes from age 20 and over. Okay, they are absolutely sleazy, very cheesy, but the audience like it because it's simple to watch. You could be at your doctor's appointment or stuck in traffic or a long commute from Turku to Helsinki. Okay, you can watch the entire series, and that is kind of bringing in the volume because audience behavior is changing, and we as creators, we need to understand what our audience wants, and that's what you need to deliver to them. So that's pretty much.
You wrapped it up at exactly 1 minute, so yeah, you did well.
All right, so yeah, thanks to all the panelists here. We need to let in the next people in after some minutes. But yeah, thanks all, everybody.